Hey guys, today we're going to be reading a spooky, scary story called The Lost Tape. It's going to be read by my friend Batz. Her info's down below. Now let's get to the story and have some fun.
Saturday, March 26th. John and I found the camcorder half buried in the sand on Sinston Beach. When I picked it up out of the sand, water leaked out from the inside of the camcorder. Sand was packed into every crevice, and the battery pack was missing. We dried it off with a beach towel and popped the cassette drive open. There was a digital cassette inside the drive, and it had a plastic head and a Panasonic logo, but no label or sticker attached. It seemed like the camcorder itself was pretty much trash, but we figured that it might still be possible to recover the data on the tape itself. I had an older Sony digital camcorder at home that used the same type of tape. I took the tape and camcorder inside with me, and John dropped me off at my home later that day. I set it down on my desk next to my computer and forgot about it for almost a week. Then the next date is Thursday, March 31st. John dropped again and next. It was Thursday and he saw it on my desk. I told him I had forgotten about it and I haven't even tried to play back the tape yet. We popped it into my Sony camcorder and hooked it up to my PC's FireWire port. Opened up Roxio's video capture application and told it to scan the tape for footage. One scene appeared on the screen. I will describe it to you as best as I can recall. A few feet in front of the camera is a woman. Her back is to the camera and she is walking down a narrow dirt path, possibly even a deer trail. Tall grass and small bushes line either side of the path. Based on the lighting, it was most likely something in the early morning or evening. The sky is cloudless and tinged with a soft orange color. Other than the shuffle of footsteps, the only thing that can be heard is seagulls crying and the soft sound of ocean waves breaking against the shore in the distance. She's wearing what used to be a one-piece jumpsuit. The top half has been ripped or cut apart and now hangs down her hips, and she appears nude from the waist up. Dozens of ugly red welts and cuts cross her back. It looks like she has been whipped or badly beaten with a stick. A length of thin rope, more like twine, had been used to bind her hands behind her back, and the twine is wound so tightly against her wrist that you could see her hands had begun to turn a shade of blue from a lack of circulation. The twine is cutting into her skin, and small rivets of blood had run down her hands and fingers, dripping onto the trail behind her. During the course of the scene, she's only taken a few dozen steps. The clip is only 30 seconds long. Right before the clip ends, a voice can be heard. "Are you filming? You better not be filming yet. I told you to wait until we get inside." And then the clip ends. Both John and I were unsettled by that one short scene on the tape. It seemed authentic, someone's home video gone horribly wrong. I tried to copy the clip to my computer, but every time we played the file back, it was just a mess of scrambled green lines with no audio. John took the tape with him when he went home later that evening. He wanted to try and use his MacBook and parents' camcorder to see if he was able to recover the clip onto his computer. He said maybe it was just a problem with my FireWire cable. It was the last time I ever saw him. Friday, April 1st. At this point, I can't think of any unusual happening. A normal Friday workday, no different from the dozens of other Fridays before it. I called John to ask for the tape, but he said he hadn't had time to look at the tape again, but he was going to stop by his parents' house after work and borrow the camcorder for the weekend. Sunday, April 3rd. John calls me, and it was the evening, sometime after 7:30, I think. He sounds excited and tells me that he was able to get the clip saved onto his MacBook. The video plays, but the sound is missing. I told him to upload the video online, but he wants to try and get the audio working too. Wednesday, April 6th. Unable to get a hold of John for 2 days. The calls are going straight to voicemail. Finally, he calls me on Wednesday just as I'm getting ready to leave work and head home. I don't think I noticed it before at the time, but looking back on events, his voice sounded odd. There was almost no inflection into his speech. It was flat and emotionless. I thought he was calling about the tape, but when I asked, he told me that it wasn't important anymore. He said he had found something and needed to go back to the beach. It takes almost 2 hours to drive out to Stinson from my house, and I told him that there was no way I was able to get out there on a weeknight after work. And even if I could, it would be nearing dark by the time we got out there. For some reason, this seemed to make him angry. I promised I'd go on Saturday with him, but this wasn't enough. He said that he needed to go for that night. But there was something very important. He kept saying that he had something to show. I asked what it was, but he said I just had to see it for myself. Finally, he called me a stubborn asshole and hung up. Thursday, April 7th. John won't answer my calls. His voicemail says his inbox is full and won't accept any new messages. Friday, April 8th. When I get up to take a shower in the morning, there's a small amount of wet sand spread out on the bottom of the tub. I think that maybe Sarah has gotten to rinsing her bathing suit out from time to time when we were at the beach 2 weeks ago, although I didn't see her suit hanging to dry anywhere in the bathroom. It's mildly puzzling, but I forget about it as soon as I leave for work. Only now do I realize that it was the start of the strange occurrences that were about to drive me into the frantic state that I am today. Later at work, my phone chimes indicating that I have a voicemail. I haven't noticed the ringing, but this isn't entirely unusual, as I don't have the best reception inside my office. It's certainly not the first time this has happened. I dial into my voicemail, and it's a message from John. He sounds calm again. No hint of his previous anger. I'm going to Stinson again tomorrow morning. Meet me there. There is something I have to show you. I finish my workday. I decide to tell Sarah about the tapes and how it's making John act strange, but when I get home, she still hasn't gotten back from work. I make myself dinner and watch some TV, and there is still no sign of her. I call her work, tell me that she left when her shift ended at 4 p.m. I call her mom in LA to ask if she's heard any word from Sarah, but she hasn't and seems worried as I am. I fall asleep on the couch watching TV. Saturday, April 9th. Sarah was gone when I woke up Saturday morning. There was no way I could meet with John with Sarah missing. I go online and try to find any reports of traffic accidents on Friday evening, but there was nothing. Finally, I decide to call the sheriff's department, and they tell me that I should file a missing persons report, but there's no waiting period to do so. I give them all the details, and they promise to call me up as soon as they hear something. Sarah's mom calls me again in the evening. She is upset that no one could find any traces of her daughter. Sunday, April 10th. I awake from the most vivid nightmare in the early hours of Sunday morning. In the dream, I am sleeping in my bed, spooning up against Sarah. I wake up and I'm freezing cold. The bed is totally soaked with nearly frozen water, and it reeks of salt and seaweed. Everything is wet, and the mattress, the pillows, the blanket, everything. My arms are wrapped around Sarah, and her body is just as cold as the water, probably even colder. I prop myself up and turn on the lamp next to the bed. Sarah is asleep on her side with her back to me, and I see that her arms have been bound behind her with twine. The knot is so tight that it turned her hands blue, and there is blood seeping from the cuts in her wrists. Her face is too broad, and her nose looks flattened and smashed, almost like she's pressed up against a piece of glass. Her eyes are bright and shiny, and her mouth is locked into a terribly wide grin. There are far too many teeth inside of her mouth, and she tells me that there's something that she needs to show me. I wake up in an empty bed, bathed in sweat and tinged in bed covers. I swear I can still smell the ocean. Eventually, I leave the house to get food. On my return, I notice wet, sandy footprints leading from the grassy lawn up to my front door. There was a wet piece of twine wrapped tightly around the door handle. When I untie it, I notice my hands have been stained with a dull red. Monday, April 11th. I couldn't sleep. I called into work and told them I was sick, and I lay on the couch all day watching TV, and I have no appetite. At some point, I must have dozed off on the couch with the TV on. I wake up and the TV is blaring noise. A local news report is on, and the news reporter is yelling, almost screaming his news report. It's a story about hundreds of dead bodies washing up on the beach last night, all of them with their hands bound behind their backs. He looks directly into the camera, as if he's looking right at me to say, "You need to get down to the beach. There's something I need to show you." The TV then turns off, and my apartment is freezing. I can still smell the salt water. Tuesday, April 12th. Another night of fitful sleeping, but at last, no more dreams. I am exhausted from the lack of sleep and the stress, and it's difficult to keep my thoughts in order. I called work and I told them I was still sick. For some reason, I didn't want them to know about my missing girlfriend. In the evening, a deputy from the sheriff's department called me. He told me that they found Sarah's car abandoned in the parking lot near Stinson Beach. I tried asking him more questions, but he seemed very elusive and wouldn't give me any straight answers. I hope they don't think I'm a suspect in her disappearance. That I would need to meet them at Stinson first thing tomorrow morning so they could ask me some questions. Shouldn't they want to question me at the sheriff's office? But before he hung up, he told me that it was imperative that I be at Stinson tomorrow. He said that there was something he needed to show me. I called Sarah's parents and her dad answered the phone, and I told them about the deputy finding the car. He said it wasn't important anymore and that everything was going to be okay. Just make sure you meet with the deputy tomorrow morning, okay? There is something you need to see. Tuesday, April 13th. Another nightmare. God, I hope it was a nightmare. I'm so tired from not sleeping, and it's hard to tell what's real and what isn't. In the dream, I was laying in bed again, and the clock said 3:28 a.m. I woke up to a soft tapping noise from the bedroom window, and I tried to ignore it and go back to sleep. But I kept hearing the tap 2 more times, and then Sarah's voice. Walter, I know you're in there. Please let me in. I want to show you something. Walter? My bedroom window is on the 2nd floor. I ran downstairs, my gaze locked onto the floor, afraid of what I might see outside the window. Even through the Venetian blinds were drawn close. I fled into the small guest bedroom / computer office on the 1st floor and locked the door behind me. I did not sleep the rest of the night. The house is filled with the smell of seawater again, stronger than before. Wednesday, April 14th. I am terrified and nearly mad with the need for sleep. I don't know what to do or who to ask for help. I know I can't stay locked up in this room all day. I've decided to write this all down and post it online. Some place where people can read it but possibly won't take it seriously. I'm afraid people won't make it back home ever again, but I have to go down to Stinson to talk to the sheriff. He's already called twice asking me where I am, and if he should just send someone to pick me up and drive me down there. Hopefully everything will be okay, and I'll be back home by this later evening.